Så er det igen blevet tid til at byde velkommen til Papstinenser, din podcast om brætspil. Din studievært er Christian Bak-Petersen.
Velkommen til en bonusepisode af Papstinenser, din podcast om moderne bræt- og kortspil, præsenteret i samarbejde med papscore.dk, hvor du kan finde nyheder, anmeldelser, artikler og anbefalinger, alt sammen om brætspil. Det er som sagt en bonusepisode af Papstinenser, fordi i sidste uge, der snakkede vi om Star Wars Unlimited, og det gjorde jeg sammen med Bo og med Morten Greis. Jeg har Bo i studiet i dag også. Hej Bo.
Hej Christian.
Og så har vi også lige kaldt Producer-Bechmann i studiet, fordi, som jeg lige sagde, inden jeg startede med at optage, vi skal have de to største kompetencer, når det kommer til sci-fi og Star Wars, når vi nu lige skal lave den her bonusepisode. Så velkommen til også dig, Christian.
Ja, mange tak skal du have.
Fordi sidste uge, der snakkede vi snakkede Star Wars Unlimited, ja. Og vi teasede også lige, at du, Bo, i Essen havde fået en snak med en af de folk, der var bag, ja. Nemlig Jim Cartwright fra Fantasy Flight Games, ja. Hvor han er, jeg tror vi kom frem til, at han er Project Strategy Director. Ellers så præsenterer han sig selv lige om et øjeblik, og så ved vi i hvert fald, hvad man er. Men han er højt på...
Jeg husker det, som om han præsenterer sig som Vicepresident of something, men det er oppe i niveauerne hos FFG. Ja,
det er en af de fede hatte, han har på hos FFG. Ja, det er det. Men Christian, du var også med dernede, og du prøvede også spillet dernede, og du var også med, da vi spillede det sammen med Morten, for det er lidt nogle dage siden. Og Christian, du er Star Wars-mand. Hvad synes du om Star Wars Unlimited?
Jamen, jeg er solgt. Det er ret simpelt. Jeg er normalt ikke den store TCG-spiller, skal jeg ærligt indrømme. Men der er et eller andet, altså selvfølgelig trykker det på alle de knapper, fordi der er det lækre artwork, og det er jo Star Wars, og så er jeg altid solgt. Men der er alligevel nogle mekanikere og den slags, som der alligevel lige tiltaler mig. Jeg har prøvet at spille Magic en gang, og jeg har ligesom prøvet et par forskellige ting. Ikke lige så omfangrig som Morten Greis, der jo tilsyneladende har spillet hvad som helst, som ikke er vist. Men alligevel så kan det noget, som i hvert fald tiltaler mig en del, som jeg ikke rigtig har set før. Den der idé med, at vi har to forskellige battlefields for eksempel, har jeg ikke prøvet. Jeg skal ikke kunne sige, at det ikke er set derude i den store verden. Det er den første, der stopper, får lov at have initiativtokenen, og for en, der har spillet Magic imod blå decks med folk, der vidste, hvad de lavede, som så ligger og kører den der, nu starter min combo, og så kan jeg jo i virkeligheden godt lige nå ud og slå en streg, fordi nu sidder de bare og flår 78 kort ned, og så har jeg minus 30 liv, når jeg kommer tilbage igen. Den der idé med, at man i Star Wars pinger frem og tilbage, så du laver en ting, jeg laver en ting, du laver en ting, jeg laver en ting, det gør, at jeg ikke kommer til at kede mig, hvis man kan kalde det det.
Nej. Jamen, jeg tror, vi er meget enige. Det var jo cirka de samme ting, som vi kom frem til, som vi også synes var nogle af de unikke selling points ved det her over for det andet. Ja. Du tænker du ikke også det på?
Jo. Ja. Altså, Christian var den første, der slog mig i Star Wars Unlimited, vil jeg godt lige bryde ind i historien med. Vi prøvede det i Essen, hvor vi som de første gik hen og bad om en demo. Jeg har et billede, jeg lige kan dele i show notesene på den her episode, men hvor vi er henne og står ved dem, mens alle FFG demofolkene får deres sidste sådan opsang. Godt, drengene, ikke? Nu er det Essen. Det er nu, det gælder. Nu skal vi bare have det der. Jeg ved, hvad havde de dernede? Måske en 20? Ja, en 15-20 borer.
Demoborer eller sådan noget, hvor der kunne sidde to mand, eller to mod to.
Ja, det
hedder det ikke. Der kunne sidde to par på hvert bord. Så der var altså mange folk igennem.
Der har været en 50 pladser eller sådan noget, og vi var jo så også heldige at finde et dæk, der var på engelsk, fordi de har rigtig mange tyske demodæk, og det var ambition-problem.
Ja, og det er jo også det igen, også det der med, når man kan se, hvilket størrelsesforhold der er op på, ikke? Når de allerede der sidder og har... Vi ved, hvor stort det her det bliver, så det skal selvfølgelig være ude på tysk. Det findes sikkert også på japansk.
Det udkommer på alle de store spansk og fransk og så videre.
Gigas. Det er en stor satsning fra FFG.
Ja.
Men det kan vi lige skal, inden vi hører, hvad Jim Cartwright han siger. Jeg har jo hørt interviewet og siger, han virker som en utrolig behagelig mand. Og altså, det virker som, at Bo, I var jo nærmest inde I vidste, I skulle snakke sammen.
Bedste venner, inden
I havde set, I skulle snakke sammen, der kunne I se, at det her det skulle nok blive godt.
Og det er egentlig et tilbagevendende tema. Jeg synes aldrig, jeg har interviewet nogen sådan i min brætspils regi, hvor man ikke har synes man sad og snakket med altså en klassekammerat, man bare aldrig havde mødt før. Altså det er generelt meget, meget søde mennesker, vi kommer rundt til. Ja. Men det er klart, han er på gaden med et nyt kortspil. Han har selv brændt for det. Han har spillet de foregående Star Wars kortspil.
Alle sammen.
Og jeg tror, jeg sidder i en nørdet Star Wars t-shirt, ikke? Så vi rammer hinanden fint der. Ja. Vi havde fået at vide, og det er måske lidt en lytteforståelse for det interview, I skal til at høre nu. Vi havde fået at vide, at der var 10 minutter med Jim. Og det er jo sådan meget typisk, det kender du sikkert også, Christian, fra dit, når du har interviewet store rockmusikere og musikstjerner.
De skal videre, og man er...
Ja, de skal videre, og de har givetvis andre mennesker, de også skal snakke med, så de har nogle PA'er og der er noget arrangement rundt om dem, der ligesom har sørget for at sige, jamen, I har det her slot fra det her til det her, så har han lige 20 minutter til at spise frokost, så skal han videre over og snakke med dem der og med dem der. Og vi havde fået 10 minutter. Det vil også sige, god skoledreng som jeg er, så havde jeg lavet mit forarbejde, og ligesom snappet nogle spørgsmål, og sagt, det her det vil jeg godt nå at snakke med ham om på de 10 minutter, vi har. Så hvis I interviewet synes, at jeg lakker sådan hen imod, at nu skal vi se at runde det her af, og tænker, det var da egentlig lidt sjovt, vi ville forvente, at Bo Jørgensen han havde nogle bedre og federe, og han kunne have snakket længe med den her mand, så er det altså derfor, efter vi har sagt farvel og tak til ham, eller vi har sagt, vi har ikke rejst os op, vi sidder ved sådan et demobord og snakker, og vi har givet ham hånden og sagt, det var mega fedt, du havde tid til os og alt det der. Og så er det ligesom om, han har ikke travlt med, eller han rejser sig ikke op og går.
Nej.
Og så får jeg tændt mikrofonen igen, og er sådan lidt, så ja, den har jeg lært til næste gang. Lad bare mikrofonen køre, til du er langt væk derfra, ikke? Så ja. Vi fik lige loopet lidt ind igen, så hey, så har jeg faktisk 2 andre spørgsmål, jeg godt lige vil overstille dig. Ja. Jeg håber ikke, at det slår lytteoplevelsen i stykker.
Nej, så der er sådan det officielle forinterview, og så er der det der unplugged bagefter, hvor man i virkeligheden, nu har vi fået overstået de...
Nu har vi slukket, nu kan du godt sige det ærligt.
Præcis. Sige alle de hemmelige ting, ja.
Jamen, et af de spørgsmål, jeg tror, jeg fik stillet ham, sådan i udrulningen af det her interview, det kommer vi selvfølgelig til lige om lidt, men det er i virkeligheden, hvordan vil I sikre, at det her det ikke går hen og bliver enormt dyrt? Fordi lige, altså, det er selvfølgelig, det koster det koster at komme i gang. Man skal have nogle tokens, man skal sikkert også have en deckbox, og man skal have en playmat, hvis man er en af dem. Alt det der, det koster selvfølgelig kun én gang, men så er der en running cost i at have sit spil sådan opdateret. Hvis du vil spille med de nye kort, jamen, så skal du ud og købe dem at some point. Det er der nok ikke nogen, der synes, der er helt urimeligt. Men når spillet så har været på gaden i 2 år eller 3 år, og nogle nye mennesker opdager det synes jeg var en af de hovedpiner, som Star Wars The Living Card Game det havde. Det var, at hvis man gad at spille det, så stod du lige pludselig for at skulle finde sådan en 1.400-1.700 kroners kortsamling, og det var butikspriser, ikke? Ja. Det var ikke fordi du skulle ud og have et helt sjældent kort, der havde foil og artwork, der var noget, altså det var ikke sådan samle kortdelen af det, der gik hen og stak af for dig.
Det var bare ren masse.
Ren at købe dem, ja. Det fik jeg stillet ham, de spørgsmål. Det er jeg faktisk rigtig glad for, at du stiller mig det der spørgsmål. Det var fedt. Ja.
Og Christian, jeg har ret i, at du stod og hang ud dernede, så du nåede også at hilse på manden, der kommer til at koste din privatøkonomi hen over de næste par år.
Ja. Men det var pænt goddag, og sådan, jamen jeg tager lige et par billeder undervejs, så jeg har jo først også hørt interviewet bagefter, fordi, undskyld for lydkvaliteten på forhånd, vi havde jo også fået at vide, at når man, I kommer ned til dem, og så har de lige sådan et lille rum, som der er mange af de der messesteder, hvor man så lige kan gå ind og så er der 4 papvæg, der kan tage det værste. Og det er der så ikke. Så det er,
det var der ikke.
Det er så midt i en stand, som er midt i en hal, som er lavet af beton og lysstofrør, og fyldt med folk, der overhovedet ikke taler stille og roligt. Så vi har noise-reducet det så godt vi kan, men undskyld på forhånd.
Altså, jeg håber, der kommer noget autentisk Essen-messehal-stemning med i det. Det tror jeg, det summer godt i baggrunden.
Ja.
Ja, altså, hvis vi en dag kommer hjem med et Essen-interview, hvor der ikke er lidt lyd af nogle folk, der ruller terninger i baggrunden, ikke, så bliver vi nødt til at lægge en ambience på, Christian. Ja. Det er simpelthen det er sådan, det må være.
Jamen, jeg har rigeligt med stok fra andre events med lastbiler, der bakker og lignende fra... så den skal vi nok få dækket ind.
Ingen nævnt, ingen glemt.
Okay, perfekt. Cool. Jamen, skal vi ikke høre dit interview med Jim Cartwright fra Fantasy Flight Games på?
Lad os gøre det. Jim, I think we want to, and thank you for taking your time, but we want to start off by just getting your name, your character, your role in all this. Who are you?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Jim Cartwright. I'm the currently the Vice President of Strategy for Fantasy Flight Games. But in terms of my role on Star Wars Unlimited, I actually was one of two original system designers who built the kind of core systems of the game. That was with Danny Schaefer, was the other, and is currently the lead designer as I've moved into other parts of the business. And then we've got an incredible team back home of an additional 7 other designers who work on the project currently. And your track record from being a card gamer or card, that's not insignificant. Could you give us a quick run through of that? Yeah, of course. I started playing TCGs with the original Star Wars TCG in the 90s. I've played every Star Wars TCG that has existed up to this point. I've been playing TCGs, not just Star Wars ones, but many over that time. I was also part of I worked at a hobby store during the 90s, during the boom of the TCGs, and got a lot of exposure to trading card games. I love them. So where did you start? Was that like the Magic cards or Jihads, or where did? I started with Star Wars Decipher. Okay. So yep, that was where I started. I obviously was aware of Magic at the time because it was coming up alongside. But yes, my passion for Star Wars is a very real thing, and so Star Wars for me, I love it. I saw it immediately as soon as you turned around. I'm wearing a T-shirt advertising for the ski resort at Hoth. I thought it was appropriate when I had to talk to you this morning. But could you, in your own words, please quickly go over what is Star Wars Unlimited bringing to the TCG table now? Yeah, absolutely. First of all, so Star Wars Unlimited is built as a fairly accessible, back and forth, hyper action, cinematic Star Wars experience, right? We wanted to be able to bring something that Star Wars fans who maybe have never played a TCG could understand and learn how to play. But we also wanted to create enough depth so that players who are experienced in trading card games have a lot to consider and think about. It has been really interesting because there are some ways in which the Star Wars Unlimited mechanics work that are very different than other TCGs, and so it takes a little bit of getting used to where the depth is. Exactly. Where it differs. And just in a few inserts, where does this differ from what we're used to, if we can say it like that? Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things is that the game has two different lanes. It has your space arena and your ground arena that you'll be playing units to. And this is kind of divided by a very prominent leader that is kind of commanding the battlefield, if you will, from the sidelines. And those mechanics can affect, various lanes, but typically in combat, those two lanes are separated to make a very dynamic, think cinematic Star Wars, battle experience. Additionally, we have the back and forth action system that we really liked in Star Wars Destiny, and found that dynamic really made it so that everyone was always engaged. You weren't sitting around waiting for someone to take their turn. We joked occasionally, sometimes we played plenty of card games where it's like, well, I'm going to get coffee. You just finish out your combos and I'll be back. So you figure out if Yoda is going to attack or not, and I'll be out here. Exactly. You have played a lot of Star Wars, the LCG or Star Wars the card game as well. Is that correct? Yes, I actually, there's somewhere out there, I'm sure someone will find it. There is, for the Star Wars LCG, I traveled to Minnesota as a player for their first regional championship, and I ended up winning that event. There's pictures of me on Fantasy Flight's website with that. I traveled the country a little bit for that in my local, couple surrounding states. I was very big into that game as a competitor. I played, like I said, Star Wars. I played Star Wars Destiny. That was also before I came into the studio. So I was a huge fan of that when it launched. But yes, and then I
I actually I'm the oldest of 8, so I have 7 younger siblings,
right.
And I have taught them. The youngest is 20 years younger than me, right. And over generations, I have taught them how to play card games on a Star Wars card game. So my 2 oldest siblings, I taught how to play on Decipher Star Wars.
Yes.
I have many that I taught on the Star Wars LCG, and I have, of course, my youngest 2 brothers on this. Yes. I've been teaching my niece and my nephew how to play the Star Wars deck building game. And they will absolutely learn their first TCG on Star Wars Unlimited.
You haven't had a role in the deck building game?
No, that has been all driven by Caleb Grace. That was his special project, and he's done an incredible job on that.
Okay. So basically, what we're looking at in Star Wars Unlimited is a soon-to-be-released starter deck set with a Luke and a Vader. Is that?
Yes, so the release date we can actually talk about now, which is exciting. So March 8th is when the game will release. Okay. One of those products is a 2-player starter deck product in which you will have a 52-card Darth Vader deck and a 52-card Luke Skywalker deck that you can just pick up out of the box and immediately start playing.
And that is somewhat similar-ish, it's an upgraded version of what we're seeing here at Essen 23, right?
That's correct. Everything that we have in these demo decks is pulled from the starters in some way, but these are only 30 cards. The ones that will be in the starter will be full playable 50 card draw deck plus your leader and your base.
So let's talk for a minute about the shift from doing an LCG, the living card game, to now going. I understand that it's going back, if you will, to an old school booster pack TCG. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we looked at, right, LCGs, we love our living card games. And we have no intentions of stopping with Arkham Horror or Marvel Champions, right? But I think that from the standpoint of, there is a place in the ecosystem for a trading card game, and Star Wars makes so much sense because you have, in addition to card game players and Star Wars fans there, but you have Star Wars collectors and people who like to do that. I also think there are aspects of a TCG that are different ways to think about competitive play, right? It's not just constructed in play. You also have draft, you have sealed, those limited formats. And while we've tried in the past to make that work in our previous products with an add-on, it was really important for us to be like, no, these are a legitimate format that people really love, and it should be built into the product from the beginning and built so that all the products themselves should be able to support that.
Right. So when the launch, and I hadn't actually heard the March deadline, so thank you for that. But when the game releases, there is the starter packs, but also the boosters, or are they called boosters?
Yes. There will be there will be 16 card booster packs for $4.99, and those will come in booster boxes of 24 packs. And so in there you will find those randomized cards, but one of the things we did differently than any of the TCGs we've done in the past is that cosmetic treatment is something we're focusing on, right? Yeah. And it's intentional. It helps separate collectors and players. It means that it might drive prices down on other, on the just I want to play cards, right? Making those cards less expensive, more accessible, and then the collectors can go chase out the craziest, rarest things that we make and enjoy those.
Looking at the table here, it looks beautiful. We have a playmat, we have beautiful acrylic tokens, and we're actually sitting at the GameGenics booth right now. The release synchronized with all the deck boxes and all that play stuff?
Absolutely, yes. No, again, we're trying to be very intentional with this. We've got everything's very tied together. So all of the GameGenic products you see on display here today will launch on March 8th alongside the game. And so yes, the playmats, the tokens, the deck boxes, all of those are going to be available at launch.
But not as one combined, I'm all in.
Ooh, I mean, you might be able to figure out how to. I don't think they're going to sell them that way, but I'm sure that someone will come to put everything together into a thing. But yes, there is quite a bit. I'm very excited.
Okay, going back to a bit of the mechanics in the game, we are playing. We're taking the role, if you will, of one of the main characters. You said Vader and Luke, and the booster packs. Will they have new characters, or are they simply split up to light and dark side from the beginning?
God, that's a great question. So one, there will be many leaders throughout each set. Yeah. And those leaders will change, obviously, the way you build your decks. Yeah. Luke and Vader are just the starters. In fact, they're not even available in boosters. You can only get Luke and Vader in there. But we will have other leaders that have different abilities. One of the key things about the way we approach Star Wars Unlimited from a mechanical and thematic design is that every single card where you see, a character that you recognize, right? Darth Vader, for example, or actually a better example would be the Luke Skywalker we have right now. This is very clearly, as the Luke Skywalker leader, you can see that this is Luke in Bespin at the Carbonite freezing chamber in this moment. Yeah. Everything for us, for characters, is a moment in time. And everything about this card needs to represent that moment in time. And so you'll take note that, this is so the two aspects that Luke is representing here are vigilance and heroism. Right. Heroism, of course, is this is Luke being extremely heroic. He's here to save his friends, despite being told by his mentors that he shouldn't. Vigilance is all about, particularly when tied with heroic, is all about defending others or protecting others. Right. And so when you look at his abilities, it's I'm shielding other people. Yeah. I'm giving people shields so that they can be protected, never himself. And you'll note that it's Force and Rebel, because while he's a Force user, in this moment, Luke Skywalker is not considered a Jedi. And so we took this moment in time, and because we do it and we approach these cards this way, as you can imagine, there are many moments of time for Luke Skywalker that we could represent differently. And those options, of course, give us, it's always fun to say, it's cheesy, I know, but kind of unlimited possibilities when it comes to the game.
So that brings my next question to the timeline that we're working in. This is the classics, the New Hopes, and the old movies. Are you bringing in other characters from the different timelines? We've seen not only the prequels, but also the Rebels and the Ahsoka thing going on now, and into the Star Wars future. I mean, that would be in the past, technically. So are the release that's coming out in March, is that focused around the old movies, I guess is the question?
So the release in March is actually focused around what we call we don't call it that, the Galactic Civil War era. And so while that does include the original trilogy, it also includes Star Wars Rebels, the animated show. It also includes Rogue One as a primary theme. It's important to note, we actually, I think while we were at Spiel, revealed a Mace Windu unit, which obviously was not part of the Galactic Civil War.
Mace Windu,
exactly. And so we have this ability to, while a set's theme is very much driven in a direction, we also have the opportunity to play in others. And to be clear, we have access to all of Star Wars, right? At this time, nothing is off the table for us. And so we are absolutely going to explore, in a game of unlimited possibilities, all of the different eras that Star Wars exists.
And you're putting it that way because there was some limitations to where the LCG could go, or...
No, I put it that way mostly in the sense of, I want to create, the understanding of, there's so much Star Wars content. And at this point, we have the ability to use all of it. It's why we used the art in the way that we did, because we wanted to make sure that whether you're representing an animated character or a live action character or a comic character or a video game character,
that we even only heard about briefly,
or something that was only in a novel that's never seen a visual treatment, right? We wanted an art style that could accommodate that and make sure that it was a very cohesive style. So but yes, the idea of other eras, of other content, all of that is very much on the table as a point of discussion.
Wow, when is it March? What was it?
Not soon enough.
Not soon. Christmas has been delayed, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel that way too. I just want everyone to know I am just as excited to get my hands on this game as all of you. So it's going to be a long wait to March.
It does. Well, I think our 50 minutes, Jim, is up. Thank you so much for your time. And anything else you want to say to the Danish audience?
No, my pleasure for the interview. Thank you so much for coming and introducing the game to your fans, to the Danish audience. And hopefully we'll be seeing everyone at the game store on March 8th. Go in March. So I don't know if March 1st is actually the pre-release event in which you can pick up the first product. So hopefully everyone's running to stores, telling their hobby stores they're interested, so that everyone's picking up the game and getting ready for launch.
So Christmas was just moved back 1 week,
yes,
actually.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much. way to get a Star Wars card game, because I need one to come out.
The world needs such a game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. The accessories look amazing. And is that a collaboration with GameGenic, or how did?
Yeah, they've been working with us for 2 years.
Okay.
With the designs, and like I actually personally met with Adrian, their head of studio, to walk through all of the kind of design elements of the game, how the game plays
Which
out.
you know from being a gamer yourself from
right. Well, and also as part of the design team, like I could walk through and say, this is important. These things need to have some kind of prominence.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that like the leader is a very important part of whatever design for deck boxes you're doing.
So
then he came back a week later.
Put a front page on those.
Exactly. He's like, all right, cool. So he came back a week later and already rendered the design that's almost that.
Right.
Exactly. It's amazing what they can do.
Yes.
But
the production, like, I don't know if that is a production pipeline or the synchronicity of the different pipelines. That must be crazy.
Absolutely. We go through, and our timelines as developing the game itself or producing the game itself is very different than GameGenic's pipeline. So we're on different tracks, but have to land at the same time.
I mean, once you are scheduled in at the printer, a lot of stuff can probably happen in a week, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're dealing with, obviously, GameGenic is producing stuff, all of their workflow is over here, and we're over in Roseville, Minnesota. And so we're also working on different, time zones.
Yeah, sure. How many releases are there scheduled for, like a year, or what, if it launches in March? When will we see the next biome, or the next planet, or the next something?
Yeah. So we want to do 3 sets a year.
3 sets a year. Yeah.
3 sets a year, and I mean, technically, I had meetings this week, so. I'm sure it's out on the internet at some point, but we have the second set will release in July, and the third set will release in November.
Okay.
So that gives you our first annual kind of cadence, and then we intend to at least keep to that cadence every year. And it's part of the reason why we work so far out.
How far ahead are you in planning that, or the artists must need their briefs soon-ish, or are already working on it?
To be clear, sets 1, 2, and 3 are already in production in some way, right? They're off the design side platform and moving on. So we're working well ahead.
Yeah.
We actually have, right now our design teams are in some form working on sets 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Right.
And then designs are being kind of worked on for set 9 as well. So there's essentially 6 sets being thought about simultaneously. And we have a 5-year, part of my job as product strategy is, building out what I've got a 5-year roadmap that starts us out, how we want to introduce and think about new products, new consumer types, those types of things. But for the most part, we are working several years ahead to make sure that we deliver on time.
So somewhere in your head, there's plans for the cooperative, like Attack on the Death Star and the raid decks and all that?
No comment.
I think we heard what Jim just said. He didn't say no. But I think it's a thing that many people don't realize. When we talk to designers like Antoine Bowser, who has done the 7 Wonders, going, but that's 3 years ago. Like, that's ancient news to me, right? I realize that all of you are just getting it in your hands now, but we have so long production lines, or so long testing and translating and finalizing.
Yeah, we started this game in the very first pitches that Danny put forth to the team, or to the leadership, was in summer of 2020.
Yeah.
So that's how long we've been working on the game, just in general. And it's funny you talk about the kind of different ancient history versus where we're at, because it's this interesting world in which, if you're on the design side, you're 2 to 3 years out in terms of what you're thinking forward. If you're in the marketing side, you have to worry about what's hitting now.
Absolutely.
What does that look like, right? And then on the strategy side, people have to think about okay, I need a 5 to 7 years, right? And where we're going, so that we have everybody in the pipeline moving in the same direction. There's a lot.
And do you feel comfortable in there's a lot of reception, there's a lot of reviews and stuff that you really don't know yet, because we have showed it off here and I can see the tables are full. That's a good sign. But would you need some pointers, if you honestly could, saying, if I could move this forward. I mean, we just came from Disney Lorcana, which probably haven't printed enough cards in their first batch. I mean, they are desperate because all English cards have been sucked out of the market. It's nowhere to be bought. So, and now they are desperate to try and pull other things out of the print queue to get new stuff in. How does that work for you, if that is your professional job?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I do want to say, personally, I play Star Wars Lorcana. I play Disney Lorcana.
Yes.
Like, I love Disney Lorcana, and I think what they're doing is fantastic.
It looks fantastic.
I don't think there's a better time in the market or in the world to be a TCG fan because you just get spoiled with choice, right?
Who'd have thought 2023, 24 would have said that? But yeah, I agree.
Right? So, I mean, yes, obviously it's always a challenge, and we're always considering what, are there ways to pivot? That's part of, we talk about in product strategy side of things, the strategy team, that we're constantly discussing these things. And in addition to always thinking the 5 to 7 year out, there's also we have tactical plans that say we might have to implement or shift or pivot. And so
comes logistics.
Right, and then comes logistics. So there's so many opportunities to guess wrong, right? But we can only do the best that we can with the information that we have, and we keep moving forward. And we always want to take, pay attention to the challenges of the market and what we can do to affect it. And I think it's a hot take. I might get in trouble for saying this, but I think that it's pretty likely that I believe that anyone releasing a TCG ever, us included, there's a likelihood that there will absolutely be mistakes made at the front end, right? Like, this is what it is. The biggest thing is, how do you adapt? How do you react? How do you make sure that your plans still work and can move forward? And so that's what we're focused on, right? We will do our best with all of the resources we have to do that. And but I can tell you from a Star Wars Unlimited perspective, because we're part of Asmodee, the largest publishing or largest distribution group in the world, and we have access to multiple studios, Game Genic is a sister studio, is that we have tried to take all of the global lessons and knowledge that we have to bring forth put forth our best foot in getting everything where it needs to be, when it needs to be, and the quantity it needs to be. But only time will tell.
Yeah, and sorry, going a bit over time here. I have a good question for you now that I understand what it is that your day job actually is. Because one of the issues that we saw, at least in Denmark, I'm guessing that's the same all over the world, but when the LCGs was running, they came out consistently. But since it was LCGs, people knew what they were missing, and they were trying to, the belief was that I'm not really playing unless I have all the cards. So while that game had been running for a couple of years, it was in my currency, it would be several thousand, which is at least several $100 to even consider going to your friendly gaming. So that must land directly on your table. How is it possible to play this game in 4 years without ruining yourself? That's the sharpest question I have for you today.
Yes, absolutely. It's so funny because you're right. It 100% lands on my table and my team's table to kind of work through the logistics of that. It's so funny that I got this question this weekend. So for Star Wars Unlimited, no problem. That problem has been solved, I think, in the TCG space. I don't think anything that we're going to do is going to be surprising to make sure that product is moving and that we are, focused on. Danny, I think, has talked in interviews about the idea of rotation and how he wants to approach it, right? Making sure that products aren't going to live on a shelf forever, and that's okay. But that the TCG space kind of understands that, right? Additionally, I think that, so it's funny that you bring up LCGs, and that I think that one of the things we are always looking to improve is how can we make a game more accessible to new players? Exactly. Because when they walk into a store and see, to your point, thousands of dollars worth of
initially, it was a cool thing, but then it actually became a bit of you can borrow some of my cards because it is actually, expensive for you to get all that.
Yes, and so it is something that we are working on currently, developing long-term plans for on how we can fix that moving forward. but it's funny because I literally, like, the last 8 months of conversations have been revolving around this particular topic as it relates to our living card games.
Still got it?
Yep, absolutely. Good.
Okay, thank you, Jim, and thank you, and have a lovely Essen.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Det var Jim Cartwright om Fantasy Flight Games nye, jeg tør godt sige, storsatsning, Star Wars Unlimited. Og altså, en af de ting, jeg blev mærke i, som jeg tror måske, jeg kan ikke huske, om vi fik det nævnt i sidste spillet, som jeg synes er interessant, det der med, at han snakker omkring artworket. Det der med, at de sørger for, at de har været meget fokuseret på, at det ikke skal blive hængt op på nogle specifikke film. Ja. Altså, sidste gang, der nævnte vi, at det originale Collectible Card Game ikke havde jo simpelthen bare billeder fra filmene, mens at her, der vil de sørge for, at der bliver en rød tråd i artworket, så det netop så det bliver tilpasset, og det er ny kunst, det hele.
Ja, og så det der Unlimited navn, det kan komme til sin ret. Ja. At du kan spille med Hera, Syndulla og med Luke, selvom den ene er en tegneseriefigur, og den anden er en gammel mand efterhånden. Ikke? Ja. Og det er lidt sjovt, fordi hen over de sidste uger og måneder har jeg jo sådan fulgt lidt med på sidelinjen på nettet, og spillet får faktisk en masse røg, fordi folk synes, at artwork-stilen er for childish. Altså, det ser jo, altså, det ligner jo nogle dårlige børnetegninger. Jeg synes ikke, det ligner dårlige børnetegninger. Jeg kan godt gå med til, at det er en ny stil, men jeg mener, det var Clone Wars også, da du så den første gang, og tænkte, sådan plejer Star Wars ikke at, det er ikke de bukser, jeg kender. Så jeg synes faktisk, det er lidt sjovt, at folk ikke kan se det positive, eller folk ikke, hurra, det er nettet. Man hører selvfølgelig kun dem, der brokker sig. Jeg er helt sikker på, at det skal nok gå i glemmebogen. Men jeg synes netop også, at det er en kvalitet, at vi kan, at det giver noget lang levetid, at vi kan kombinere og se det, og det må have været en kæmpe satsning for dem, for det nemmeste ville have været bare at genbruge det artwork, de allerede havde betalt for en gang. Ikke? Ja.
Ja. Det er også, så kan man ligesom gå og vente på, at der kommer til at være der kommer en serie med kun obskure bipersoner, som Timothy Zahn, han har fundet på til et eller andet. Det bliver,
de er der. Absolut. Der bliver revealet et par kort om ugen, sådan nu her i run-up til, at spillet det udkommer, og der er alle mulige, hey, er det der ikke, du ved, en eller anden Facen Bounty Hunter fra en tegneserie, eller et computerspil, altså alle de der folk har de fået hævet med op. Og så kan man sige, hvis der bare er en eller anden Rebel Sympathizer, der sidder i en bil, eller en speederbike, på en speederbike eller en landspeeder eller sådan noget i Star Wars-universet, kunne det så ikke have været hvem som helst? Jo, det kunne det godt, men vi får alligevel lige flettet alle de der bipersoner og hovedpersoner og i virkeligheden også en masse, som ikke er set. Og hvis der er noget, jeg synes, Star Wars har, altså i de seneste Disney-år har været lidt plaget af, så er det, at vi skal hele tiden tilbage. Altså, vi skal på Tatooine, vi skal se Luke, og vi skal se Obi-Wan, og det er sådan, giver os nu noget mere. Ikke? Verden, den har masser af sømp og smugglers og under hvad hedder sådan noget, the underworld, der kan
der er plenty of huts out there. Det behøver ikke være Jabba hver eneste gang.
Ja, præcis. Og det var måske også derfor, Andor, den slog så godt an, som den gjorde, ikke? Altså, der var...
Præcis. Ja, det er et stort univers, der er derude. Vi behøver ikke komme tilbage til de samme 4 planeter hver evig eneste gang. Det er okay at tage til en ny.
Ja, altså, jeg tænker, der sidder nogle folk her og spildesigner og sådan noget, som har været flittigt blandt de mindre besøgte kroge af Wikipedia, eller hvad der er derude af resources. Så det er mega fedt.
Ja, jeg glæder mig.
Og når vi sender den her på gaden, så er der under en måned til på. Ja. Det er den 8. marts.
Det bliver jul tidligt i år.
Det bliver jul tidligt i år. Vi kommer helt sikkert til at følge op på Star Wars Unlimited, når vi kommer til at sidde med nogle af de rigtige decks, og det forestiller jeg mig, at det kommer de fleste Papstinenser podcastmedlemmer i hvert fald til, og så tænker jeg, at jeg vil virkelig gerne have noget indspark for lytterne også, når de begynder at komme ud og spille det, fordi det er om i slutningen af 2024, der bør vi jo i hvert fald kigge tilbage og se, hvor stort et ryg i The Force af det her spil kommer til at give.
Ja, og jeg synes måske også, en lidt, hvis vi tager den lidt op i helikopteren, hvad betyder det for Fantasy Flight, hvis de får en hvad skal vi sige, utømmelig kilde af indtægter her, så kan vi måske få et Fantasy Flight, der bouncer lidt tilbage, må jeg godt sige det. Ja. Flopper det her big time, så altså nu Fantasy Flight er heldigvis en del af så meget en større Asmodee-gruppe og sådan noget, så de falder nok ikke helt igennem. Men vi har også brug for at se noget godt, fedt gennemarbejdet for dem, ikke?
Ja, helt sikkert. Ja. Med det, så er vi nået til slutningen af den her bonusepisode af Papstinenser. Find links til Star Wars Unlimited og den tidligere episode, hvor du kan høre Bo og Morten og jeg snakke om Star Wars Unlimited.
Nu du lige siger, find links til Star Wars Unlimited i sidste uge, altså mellem vi releasede den første episode om Star Wars Unlimited og til nu, der er starwarsunlimited.com gået online. Det har længe bare været en skal af en side, hvor der står, her kommer noget fedt en gang, og så er der ligget nogle præregler. Den er gået online nu, så man kan gå ind og bygge sine decks, man kan gå ind og lave sig en profil, holde styr på, hvad man har for nogle kort, og man kan i det hele taget begynde at se sådan skallen af det, der er organized play. De har en Find Your Local Store service derinde. Sidst jeg kiggede det måske for en uge siden, var der ikke nogen butikker inde i den endnu. Så det er ved at, det kommer på.
Ja, det er proces.
Men altså tanken er jo selvfølgelig, at de meget gerne vil prøve at understøtte, ikke bare at der er et fedt spil, men også at folk rent faktisk kommer ud og får kortene på bordet.
Fedt. Den linker vi helt sikkert også til.
Lad os gøre det.
Det kan vi gøre inde på papstinenser.dk eller papsko.dk/podcast. Husk, det var en gratis episode. Du kan støtte Papstinenser på tier. Jeg tror, der er aftalt vi ikke, Bo, da vi snakkede sammen her tidligere i starten af året, at det er slutningen af februar, der trækker vi lod om en masse af de sidste Papstinenser krus.
Jo. Du
kan stadig nå at sign up, når du hører den her episode. Så join os inde på tier.dk, så kan du med, når vi trækker lod om de sidste af de fede røde Papstinenser krus. Der kommer nogle ekstra fede nogen.
Så lover vi også at få sendt dem, vi trak sidste gang.
det er et promise.
Vi lover det.
Ellers så må I må altid gerne prikke til os. Vi tager det ikke højtid. Når vi har lovet noget, så vil vi virkelig gerne holde det. Så
der er ikke noget.
Du kan finde Papstinenser på Apple Podcast, på Spotify, på Podimo, eller hvor du ellers sender din podcast, og så er vi også på YouTube. Med mig i studiet i dag var Christian Bechmann og Bo Jørgensen. De to producer.
Podcasten er produceret af os.
Ja, præcis. Og Mark Ditlevsen. Mit navn er Christian Mark Petersen, og på vegne af Papstinenser skal jeg lige sige igen, tusind tak til Asmodee Nordics for at stille testdecks til rådighed. Det var en stor fornøjelse. May the force be with you.